Well, we've added rational numbers. We've subtracted rational numbers. So you had to know that multiplying rational numbers was coming up. And that is what we're going to do. So I gave you a page to put inside of your interactive notebook. This is not that, but this is the top of page 28 of your interactive notebook. There it is. This is some of the things where it says every time and points up there. These are some of the things that we went over in class. So these things right over here. I still want you to copy them down in your interactive notebook on page 28. It will help you if they are in a couple of different places so you can find them, because these are very important. These are the rules that govern multiplying rational numbers, and you always have to follow the rules. Okay. Now this is the page that I gave you. It kind of looks like a bunch of gobbledygook, but here is what I'm doing here. Okay, this flap right up here, if I was able to peer and look on the other side of it, would be the one that says -5 times -3. But if you can see -5 times -3 on your flap right now, then you're doing this the wrong way. So that is folded back. This area right here that I'm about to write on, that is inside the little booklet after you make the little booklet. So this is what we're going to write inside. Okay, so you probably know that 5 times 3 is 15. Oh, let me get a much, much smaller font to write in than that. That's terrible. That ought to be better. It is 15. And since this is a negative times a negative, I refer back to my rules. Negative times negative is positive. So the answer is a positive 15. I'm positive about that. Okay. Moving down the page, let's get a nice little blue. This would be the flap over here. On the front of the flap, it says -1/5 times 2/3. Okay, you don't need to write this on your flap. I'm just writing it out there just to show you which flap I'm looking at. So in here, it is -1/5 times 2/3. Now then, thank you, good Lord, for giving us a multiplication problem with this or with fractions, because when you multiply fractions, you do not need a common denominator. Don't need a common denominator. So you just multiply straight across. 1 times 2 is 2. 5 times 3 is 15. Since it is a positive times a negative, I'm going to refer back to my rules. Yep, positive times negative is negative. So that would be a -2/15. It cannot be simplified. There we go. Got my answer. Okay, looking over here, if this I could see through this flap, this is the -2.5 times 4.3. Now with this one, you have to treat it like it's a 2-digit by 2-digit multiplication problem, because that's basically what it is. So 2.5 times 4.3. Remember, in multiplication of decimals, you don't have to line up the decimals. In this case, they just happen to line up. I don't need them lined up, but they just happen to line up this time. So 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. Got to remember my 0 right there. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 2 is 8. Plus 2 is 10. So when I add this all together, I get 1075. The decimals, I'm going to do this in a separate color so you see what I'm doing here. It's over 1 space, 2 spaces. So the decimal has to be over 2 places. So that would be 1, 2, and there it is. So I went 1 place, 2 spaces for the decimal, and there we go. So my answer is 10.75. Again, it was a negative times a positive, or in this case, yes, a negative times a positive. So it is a negative answer. There is my answer. Okay, so negative times positive is a negative. My final one. I'm not going to write this problem down on the flap because through process of elimination, you should be able to figure out what it is. So I've got a negative 3 1/2, and I am multiplying it times a negative 4 3/4. Now I am going to get the improper fractions here. So this would be 7/2, negative 7/2 times a negative 19/4. Now I just multiply straight across, and a negative times a negative is a positive. So 7 times 19 is 133. 2 times 4 is 8. That is an improper fraction. When I actually do the division, which is 133 divided by 8, I would get 16 5/8. And of course, that is positive, because remember, a negative times a negative is a positive. Okay, so that gets the notes taken care of that are inside the little booklet that I handed you. That gets either taped or pasted down at the bottom of your Making Rational Numbers page on page 28. And I will see you in class tomorrow.